He was just 28 years old, standing under the hot studio lights, filming the role that was meant to make him a star. In a few moments, a tragic accident would claim his life in front of cameras, ending a legacy before it even began. This is the story of Brandon Lee, the son of a legend, a man fighting to make his own name, and the horrifying last minutes that shocked Hollywood. Brandon Bruce Lee was born on February 1, 1965, in Oakland, California. He was the only son of martial arts icon Bruce Lee and his wife Linda. From the very beginning, Brandon's life was shadowed by fame. The world saw him as the son of Bruce Lee, the boy who would one day inherit the throne of martial arts cinema. But Brandon was just a child, trying to find his own path. His early years were shaped by both privilege and tragedy. When Brandon was only 8 years old, his father, Bruce Lee, died suddenly at the age of 32. The world mourned the martial arts superstar, but for Brandon, it was a personal devastation. He lost not just a father, but his role model, his protector, his guide. After Bruce's death, the Lee family moved away from Hong Kong and settled in the United States. Brandon grew up in Seattle and later Los Angeles, often struggling to live in the shadow of his father's legend. Teachers, classmates, and even strangers constantly reminded him of Bruce Lee, expecting him to be the same. Brandon loved his father deeply, but he also longed to be seen as his own person. In his teenage years, Brandon developed a passion for acting. He studied drama at Emerson College in Boston and later trained at the Lee Strasberg Theater Institute in New York City. Unlike his father, whose career was built almost entirely around martial arts, Brandon wanted to blend physical action with deep, emotional storytelling. He wanted to prove he wasn't just Bruce Lee's son. He was Brandon Lee. By the late 1980s, Brandon began landing roles in action films. He starred in Legacy of Rage in Hong Kong, then in Hollywood productions like Rapid Fire and Showdown in Little Tokyo, alongside Dolph Lundgren. Audiences saw the raw charisma, the intense eyes, the athletic grace that reminded them of Bruce, but Brandon's acting style was his own. He was charming, vulnerable, and deeply human on screen. Then came The Crow. Based on James O'Barr's dark comic book, The Crow was the story of Eric Draven, a musician brought back from the dead to avenge his own murder and the murder of his fiancée. It was a haunting, gothic tale of love, loss, and revenge. Brandon believed it was the role of a lifetime, a chance to break free from typecasting and prove himself as a serious actor. Filming began in 1993 in Wilmington, North Carolina. The production was low budget and plagued with problems, crew strikes, accidents, and unsafe working conditions. Still, Brandon poured his heart into the film. He lost weight to fit the gaunt look of Eric Draven, performed grueling stunts, and even endured cold, rainy night shoots. Despite the hardships, Brandon was excited. He told friends he finally felt like he had found his voice as an actor. But then, tragedy struck. On March 31, 1993, the cast and crew gathered to film one of the final scenes of the movie. In the scene, Brandon's character, Eric Draven, walks into his apartment and discovers his fiancée being attacked by thugs. One of the thugs points a revolver at Brandon's chest and pulls the trigger. In a movie, the gun was supposed to be harmless, but this time it wasn't. The prop department had previously used real bullets to create close-up shots of cartridges. They had removed the powder, but one bullet accidentally had its primer intact, leaving a live projectile lodged in the barrel. When the same gun was later loaded with blanks, bullets without a projectile but with explosive powder, the lodged bullet was propelled out with deadly force. At 12:30 a.m., with cameras rolling, the actor playing the gunman aimed the revolver and fired. A loud bang echoed through the set. Brandon collapsed instantly. At first, many thought he was acting, but then the blood didn't stop. Crew members rushed to him, panic spreading across the set. Brandon had been shot in the abdomen, the bullet tearing through his body. He was rushed to New Hanover Regional Medical Center, where doctors worked desperately for hours. They performed surgery, transfused blood, and fought to save him, but the injury was too severe. After 6 hours in the operating room, Brandon Lee was pronounced dead at 1:04 p.m. on March 31, 1993. The news spread like wildfire. Hollywood was stunned. Fans of Bruce Lee mourned the loss of his only son. Friends and family were heartbroken. He was just 28 years old, on the cusp of greatness, about to step out of his father's shadow when his life was stolen by a preventable accident. Brandon was buried beside his father in Lakeview Cemetery in Seattle. On his gravestone are the words, "Because we don't know when we will die, we get to think of life as an inexhaustible well." The Crow was later completed using body doubles and digital effects. When it was released in 1994, the film became a cult classic, praised for its beauty, its darkness, and Brandon's unforgettable performance. Watching it is haunting because every scene reminds us of what was lost and what could have been. Brandon Lee's horrifying last minutes revealed the dangers of negligence on movie sets, leading to new conversations about gun safety in film. But more than that, they left behind a legacy of what if. What if Brandon had lived? What roles would he have played? What stories would he have told? Brandon's life was short, but it was powerful. He carried his father's legacy with dignity while carving out his own. His final performance as Eric Draven is not just a role. It is a haunting reminder of love, tragedy, and the fragile line between life and death. And maybe that's the lesson Brandon leaves us. Time is never guaranteed. Dreams can be cut short in an instant. But if you live with passion, with honesty, and with courage, your spirit will outlast even the darkest tragedy. Brandon Lee may have died on the set of The Crow, but through his art, through his determination, and through the hearts of those who still remember, he lives on.